Okay. Thank you.
Everyone ready? I call to order the February 7th, 2017 meeting of the Arvada Planning Commission. Ms. Brown, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Brandee Caswell. Here. T.O. Owens.
Here.
David Goff. John CROUSE.
Here.
Patricia Connell. Here. John Sullivan. Steve Hannon.
Here. I move to excuse Mr. Goff and Mr. Sullivan from the meeting. Commissioners, please vote. Mr. Goff and Mr. Sullivan are excused. The minutes of the December 6th, 2016 meeting have been submitted for approval. Are there any additions or corrections to the meeting minutes? There being no corrections, the minutes stand approved as printed. There are no general business items to discuss this evening, and there are no report items to discuss this evening. So would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll move on to petitions and communications. This is a time when anyone may address the Commission regarding items that are not listed as public hearings on tonight's agenda. The public hearing scheduled on tonight's agenda is the Care Now Medical Clinic Preliminary Development Plan at 6413 Fig Street. Additionally, we ask that you hold comments you may have regarding any application that has been filed with the city or is likely to be filed with the city until the public hearing on those items, where we will welcome your comments. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the Commission regarding anything else? Seeing none, then we'll move to public hearings. At this time, I'd like to explain the procedure for public hearings. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation. After the presentation, I will ask those in favor of the applicant to speak, then those in opposition to speak. The applicant will be given an opportunity for rebuttal. After all the testimony has been heard, the public input portion of the hearing will be closed and questions will be taken from the Planning Commission. I would now like to swear in anyone who wishes to speak in any public hearing matter before this commission this evening. Please rise, raise your right hand, and I will swear you all in now. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in matters before this commission is the truth and nothing but the truth? If so, please answer, I do. Thank you. You can be seated. The public hearing on tonight's agenda is PDP 2016-0009, Care Now Medical Clinic Preliminary Development Plan. Staff, are there any posting or notification requirements?
Yes, 3 forms of notification were required. A posting or a publishing in a newspaper, which was completed by staff, a posting at the property, and a mailing notification, which were both done by the applicant. Staff has the posting log and the affidavit of mailing.
Great. Are there any additions or corrections to the staff report?
No, there are not.
No, but we do have a corrected staff report that went out. Okay.
So let me clarify. Sorry about that. The staff's final round of comments, I believe, were included with your staff reports. Okay.
Okay. The staff report, posting log, and affidavit of mailing are made a permanent part of the record. Is there a representative of the applicant present? Would you please step to the podium? Yes. Oh, okay.
All right. Just a brief introduction of the case. The case before you is a preliminary development plan to construct a 5,795 square foot medical facility on approximately 1 acre of vacant land at 6413 Fig Street. The facility will offer a variety of medical services, including urgent care, occupational medicine, family care, and travel medicine. Staff has reviewed the preliminary development plan, and it exceeds or complies with all base standards in the PUD BP zone district, with the exception of the maximum retaining wall height in the detention ponds. The Land Development Code restricts the maximum height of retaining walls to 48 inches. The applicant is asking for a possible deviation up to 57 inches, which is less than the 20% deviation that would be allowed and could be approved administratively through a minor modification. However, they are presenting it to you for your consideration. With that, staff recommends approval of the proposed PDP with the condition that all of staff's comments on that comment letter dated January 31st, 2017 be incorporated into the final development plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a representative of the applicant present? Would you please step to the podium, state your name, please spell it, please, and provide your address for the record.
Mike Minor, M-I-K-E-M-I-N-O-R, and I live at 1048 Milwaukee Street, Denver, Colorado.
You may proceed.
What we are proposing is a Care Now urgent care facility. They are owned by HCA Healthcare, who you're probably familiar with, Health One. As you know, with most urgent cares, it's basically small cuts and scrapes, stitches, sicknesses, illnesses. There won't be any ambulatory care. It's typical hours of operation are just during the day, nothing going into the night. They do provide occupational medicine as well, such as testing for employers and things of that nature. This is a site map here, which shows us going in between the TCF Bank and the Academy Daycare.
Sorry.
And here's a little zoom in of our site plan. It's a little bit over an acre, 5,700 square foot building. You can see on the side there where the detention pond is, that'll have the retaining wall. And we're going to be under the maximum height allowable by code. Our overall landscaping plan showing some trees and bushes, and we'll be well off the road, off of 64th, and putting plenty of trees along 64th there. And these are just some color elevations of our buildings, all masonry, all brick finish on the outside, and then there's a entry detail with clear anodized storefront and some metal panels up on top. And the rest of our presentation is just the PUD slides, kind of for if you guys have any questions.
Okay, well, we'll take input from the public if there is any, and then the planning commissioners will have an opportunity to ask you questions after that.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you.
I will now open the hearing to for comments from the public. First, those that are in favor of the application. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, then I don't think we'll need a rebuttal. So at this time, I'll close the public input portion of the hearing. I now open the hearing for discussion, questions, or comments from members of the Planning Commission. I'll also tell the Planning Commissioners, since we just received these condition piece right before the meeting, if the Commissioners want to take some time to review that, as we did not get a chance and we're being asked to add it as a condition for approval, I'll be happy to give the Commissioners time to review that letter. Ms. Caswell.
Thank you. I did have a few minutes to review that before we started, but I think I'd like to approach that issue, Chairman, this way. As a question for staff first, do we have a process change here, or what is it that's led to us being asked to add as a condition this entire packet of information, which really are the staff review comments collected from all the referral entities? We've not, or at least I have not seen us being asked to make as a condition of approval this type of information in the past, although I'm sure it exists in all these applications. It's part of your process that staff goes through.
Yes, we are in the process of making some changes to the way we were processing applications. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a few weeks. I think we're going to schedule a workshop just to go through that with you folks. But basically, we're trying to get reviews done in 2 reviews from staff's perspective. And when we get to that second review, the idea is that we would have some very minor conditions that might still need to be addressed, but not enough to require another submittal from the applicant. So in order to kind of expedite the process, you will be seeing more of these minor comments as conditions of approval as we move forward. But as I mentioned, we do want to have a work session with you folks I think in a month or so to help kind of explain that in more detail.
Okay. Well, I actually think it's very helpful for us to see the referral review comments summarized in this way to know what various concerns were raised. I mean, these appeared to me to be very minor issues, and I see you nodding your heads, but I'd just like to ask the question clearly, are there any issues of any significant concern in these comments? Well, and let me be more specific for the record, the January 31st letter that would be incorporated as a condition of approval.
No, we feel like we've worked through all of the major comments. Some of the last ones were kind of sizing of the detention ponds, and we feel like we've got that to a point that we're comfortable moving forward. So we feel those are all minor and that they can be addressed at the final development plan, and that they will not result in a alteration to the site that takes it out of conformance with what would be approved or not approved tonight. So.
Okay, that's all I have. I just, would endorse streamlining the process if that's possible and workable from the staff's perspective to save our applicants further submittal costs.
And just to clarify that more on a broader scale, we would not bring anything to you that would have major site plan changing conditions. So all you will see moving forward will be the smaller technical things that will not have an impact on the site plan as you see it.
Okay. And let me make clear as the chair that we will not push applications forward if we are not given adequate time to review things like this. I had to ask for it to get it, and we didn't get it till tonight. That is not acceptable going forward. I will defer them to a future meeting if that's the case.
We will make sure that you get those as part of the staff report from here on out.
I would appreciate it. Mr. Hannon.
2 things. First is I appreciate seeing the additional information, and also am concerned about the timeliness of it. And the second is the retaining wall. A 5-foot, well, almost 5 foot, 4.5 foot retaining wall seems like almost an approach to increase broken limbs coming into the Care One facility. So is that, I'm got a little confused about the height of that.
They still have to comply with the building code, so if it's anywhere near a pedestrian way, they will have to put a railing in to prevent a fall. But other than that, there is no requirement for something like that. 4-foot retaining walls, like I said, are our standard allowed maximum height in all zone districts based on the land development code.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Owens.
My question actually is about a gate or a fence on top of the retaining wall. Is that required in this case or not?
We have spoken with the building official on this one, and since none of these are adjacent to a pedestrian way, there's not a sidewalk, that it is not required on these retaining walls as shown on the site plan.
It's on the, I'm trying to orient myself. On the east side, are those not, is that not a parking lot?
Correct. It is a parking lot, but it's not considered, again, per the building code, to be a pedestrian way. There's no necessarily reason for somebody to be walking along the side there.
Gosh, it snows here and people people scrape their windshields off. It seems like that's an awfully close place to have somebody fall 5 feet while they're knocking the snow off their headlights and windshields. I don't know if I feel comfortable with that. I mean, I understand there's a building code, but it sure seems like we're putting potentially people in harm's way. A 5-foot fall is a pretty bad fall.
Ms. Connell.
Just a clarification, what is in, it's probably a part of engineering, but what is the key purpose of the retaining wall?
Well, it's essentially to increase capacity in the ponds. By having a retaining wall, you can achieve a higher stormwater capacity in a smaller area. There are standards with the amount of retaining walls they can have around a pond. They can't exceed that, and they haven't. So, but we do allow it in a limited situation.
And I have a question for staff. So this building, the loading and traffic will come in from the north. But it faces, a fairly major thoroughfare along 64th. And my concern, looking particularly at the south elevation, that what really looks like the back of the building facing a major thoroughfare and not particularly attractive. Has any consideration been given to maybe improving the site picture from 64th to this building?
Yeah, that was one of staff's concerns when it initially came in, and we have worked with them quite significantly to get additional architectural features, to get some additional windows added in the back there. Some of the metal, I'm going to call them canopies. They're not quite, they don't project out as far as what I would consider a true canopy, but I believe they do project out 12 inches. We did get the berm and the landscaping to cover some of the mechanical equipment in the back, so that was a concern. Okay. We did work with the applicant, and this is what they would like to move forward with.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, is there a motion? Mr. Hannan.
Pressing button for the fourth time. I move that PDP 2016-0009 Care Now Medical Clinic Preliminary Development Plan, 6413 Fig Street, be recommended to City Council for approval, subject to the conditions stated in the staff report, item 1, page 9. This motion is based on the findings of fact and approval criteria on pages 7, 8 of the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Hannan. Is there any discussion of the motion? Mr. Owens?
I'd like to offer an amendment, a friendly amendment to the motion to require railing on the east side anywhere the retaining wall adjacent to the parking lot is greater than 4 feet, 48 inches.
Mr. Hannan?
That's a sensible amendment, and will stop me from voting against my own motion.
Okay, so we have an amended motion before us. Is there any discussion of that motion? Seeing none, commissioners, please cast your votes. The motion carries 5 votes to none. Well, thank you for your presentation. Be sure to work with staff as to when this item will be going before City Council. We thank you for your participation this evening. Staff, are there any other items for us to consider this evening?
Just an update on your next meeting, which will be February 21st. We will have 3 items on the agenda. 2 items associated with the Candelas Townhomes, which are at Hallett Street and Highway 72, and that will be a PDP and a preliminary plat. Hillside Cottages will be back in front of you. That's at 68th and Carr. That'll be zoning, PDP, and preliminary plat. And finally, the Arvada self-storage, which is at 60, kind of Kipling and 60th, Ralston and 60th there, and that will be zoning and PDP as well.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from our members? Mr.
Yes,
Hannan?
I will not be at the 21st February meeting. I'll be in Amsterdam, so the commute would be a little hard to make.
All right, stay out of trouble.
Thank you, sir.
All right. With that, we are adjourned.